All right, we got a little Super Bowl rundown for y'all tonight following the incredible game that we just witnessed between the Chiefs and the 49ers. Check it out. Yo, welcome out to this episode of the Game Time Grind with the Game Time Guru. That's myself, Shane Larson, just doing a little reaction video to the Super Bowl that we just witnessed tonight, man. I'm just blown away. So a couple of things here. What an incredible game as a football fan, right? As a football fan, I absolutely loved the game and the ups and the downs. It's exactly what you want to see in a high stakes game like that. I mean, you want the momentum shifts, the different plays that make a difference and all that, the emotions, the ups, the downs, everything, right? Now, my family and a lot of my friends are 49ers fans. So for that reason, that's the downside of sports. It was heartbreaking to watch my son witness the loss because he was rooting for the 49ers because it's my dad's team. So my son, who's 7 years old, trying to figure out his emotions of, losing. I'm trying to teach him like this is how sports are, though. You win some and you lose some, and it's heartbreaking. Granted, this was a very heartbreaking loss for 49ers fans. Now, a couple of things. I think the reason that it's so heartbreaking personally is because when you lay it all out on the field like they did, literally, they had guys going down, and we'll get to that in just a second, but they laid it out on the field and they played about as well as you can play. They were in a position to win the game. That's as good as you can play without winning. It's as good as you can play. Yeah, without winning. I mean, you got it to within, under 5 seconds to go in the game and you didn't win it and you had a chance. That was as close as you can be to winning without actually winning. I mean, it's tough to swallow that. And it kind of reminds me of when Ohio State played Clemson in the 2019 Fiesta Bowl. That was the feeling I had as a Buckeyes fan after the game, because while it was an amazing game, it's like you played as good as you can possibly play without winning. Like you came as close as you could without actually winning. And you leave thinking, man, we could have won that game. It's not like we made a ton of terrible plays. Obviously, you can go back and look at a couple of things, but you look at it and you're like, man, like we played very well and we still lost. And it's a tough pill to swallow. Sometimes that's harder to swallow than getting beat because like you made a couple mistakes here and there, and you look back on a couple of things that happened or some bad calls or whatever it was. When you play as well as you can play and you're doing really well, but you end up losing because it's just a hard fought battle, like that's hard to swallow. A couple of things to point out: the 49ers injuries, it's just crazy to me, the luck or lack thereof, have you, for that organization. I mean, last year they're riding high and they get into the game against the Eagles, and then everything just falls apart. I mean, we're talking big time injuries. Well, that was a talking point today, is that they were healthy, right? They were finally healthy. And so, the 49ers really had a roster full of like their full talent. They were ready to rock and roll, and just a couple of freak things. Obviously, the torn Achilles was just devastating on the sideline. That's just what do you even say to that? It's just absolutely devastating, regardless of who you're rooting for. That sucks. And then you're looking at guys getting hurt throughout the game, getting banged up. Now Debo hurts his hamstring, somehow comes back into the game. I mean, and he played pretty well, but you can kind of tell it hindered him, and they had to shift their play calling a little bit because of it. And so I was just like, man, they made it as far as you can make it, being as healthy as you can be. Finally, the 49ers got over that injury hump. And then it happens in the biggest game of the year. And still with that, they competed till the very end. In fact, they were in a position to win it. Man, it's just one of those games. It's just crazy. The other thing I was just thinking about tonight was just how in these types of games, it's a game of inches, right? And just tiny little things. When you look at how good Moody was as a kicker, obviously the extra point that was missed was pretty much the deciding factor there, because Kansas City was able to come down and tie it rather than having to go for the touchdown. Now, they got down there closer to the goal line at that last possession, but, San Francisco, in my opinion, could have easily stopped them. I shouldn't say easily, but they could have very well stopped them if they had to go for a touchdown and they went all out on it, like at the end of regulation. But because of that missed extra point, Kansas City was in a position to then tie it. And it comes down to little things like that. They showed the replay of the field goal that Kansas City kicked and how close it was to being blocked. I mean, a game of inches, truly. So, like, little things here and there are just the deciding factor, especially in situations like this. And then, man, I'm just looking at it. I don't think Shanahan called a bad game. And maybe if you're a 49ers fan, you might think differently. I don't know. This is what I'm doing. I want to get some thoughts from people, but I didn't think he called a bad game. I actually, that's been what he's been kind of hated on for, just his play calling and pressure situations. And I actually thought Shanahan called a pretty solid game. He did a pretty good job. I don't have anything bad to say about what he did. I thought he had a ballsy call on that 4th and 3, and he got it and put his team in a position to win. Like he got him in to score a touchdown and took the lead after that. Like he made some great calls. Andy Reid did the same thing. In fact, I'd actually say for the most part, Shanahan called almost a better game than Reid for if you look at the the entire game. But I felt like the second half, the Chiefs kind of picked things up. But in the first half, like, yeah, like you want to talk about Travis Kelce getting mad at Andy Reid, you can do that. Like that's a meme that's going around. Whether or not that was behavior that you can condone, I don't know. But like he had a point. Like they weren't getting him the ball, and yeah, that's a part of the defensive scheme. But you've got to try to start getting him the ball, because when you see what happened is when they started getting the ball in Kelce's hands, it started opening things up. Even if it's just like 5, 6, 7 yard gains, just get the ball in his hands. It opens things up, and it was a game changer for them in the second half when they made that a priority. So that first half they weren't doing it. I thought Shanahan was actually calling a better game. So anyway, it was just an amazing game. As a football fan, that's what you want to see. I mean, you go into overtime with the last 5 seconds of the game on the line. That's an incredible football game. That's what you want to see. Gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching for 49ers fans, exhilarating for Chiefs fans, but as a football fan and as just a sports fan in general, that's a W in the sports world, what we just witnessed tonight. That's truly 2 of the best teams in the entire world competing at the highest level and literally leaving it all on the field. That is what you want to show. And so one of the things that I'll say here is, my son was pretty upset about it because his team lost. The team that he's cheering for lost, right? And I had him sit there and watch the celebration ceremony, and I was using it as a learning tool for him because he didn't like losing. He's really wanting to cry. He was so angry. He was trying not to cry in front of people because he was trying not to get his emotions too high and get embarrassed, but he didn't want to cry. But I wanted him to sit there and listen to it and say, hey, this is what you do. You're going to lose. Watch how they're celebrating and then see how that motivates you to do better. The whole thing, you're trying to teach them. It's just a little learning opportunity, sharing with them those moments that are gut wrenching, but letting him know this is what it feels like to lose. So do all that you can to not do that. Now he's a fan. He's not an actual player for the team. So it's a little different situation, but just letting him understand that it's okay to lose and that's going to be part of life. That's the reality that we live in, but that's why sports are amazing as well. Cause it's a little learning opportunity for me to show him you can't win them all. And you're going to have to learn how to handle a loss and move on with your life. You know what I mean? So, and then I had to make sure I told him, I'm like, hey, I'm a Cowboys fan, man. This is just what we go through. You have to learn and keep going on and keep being a good citizen in society. You know what I mean? So anyway, crazy game though. I thought the playmakers that needed to make plays. I mean, Jennings was doing awesome for San Francisco, but I really thought that finally, Mahomes played like Mahomes. Sometimes in those games, you need your superstar to be a superstar. And that's what I thought was the difference maker for Kansas City. San Francisco had guys stepping up. McCaffrey was playing a pretty solid game as well. And Purdy did all right, but it wasn't his best game. But I thought, when in those games, you want your superstar to actually superstar. Be one, right? And I thought that Mahomes figured that out and was like, okay, it's time for us to actually play at that level, that superstar level. And he put his team in a position to win, and they ultimately did. So sometimes in those big games, big time situations, your superstars got to be superstars. So I would love to hear what you guys have to say about it. Just a little quick video to share that with y'all. Again, if you guys want to listen to my actual podcast where I interview sports figures from all over the world, it's called the Gametime Guru. It's here on YouTube as well. I have it on all my audio podcast platforms as well. Check it out. We have new episodes every single Friday where I interview somebody new. And so feel free to do that. Consider hitting the subscribe button if you'd like to follow this channel. But I'd also just love for you guys to leave some comments and some reactions to the game. So we'll be coming to you next time with another one. Take care.